Welcome to Under the Surface. This is where we slow down and look at the patterns underneath the stories we tell ourselves. Today's chapter is called Relapsed. Welcome to No One Is Normal, the podcast where real stories remind us that none of us are alone. You can also visit the website www.bradhhill.com or www.nooneisnormal.co for resources, updates, and future podcast episodes. I am Brad H. Hill, and each week we talk about the messy, the complicated, and the deeply human moments that shape us and remain in our memories. I am not here to tell anyone how to live. I am here to offer the stories, the insights that made me realize that no one is normal, including me, because healing starts when self-honesty begins. Relapse is one of those words people whisper, as if it were a confession. It gets treated like proof you have failed, when most of the time it's just a momentary weakness in the battle against the ego. Like it cancels out every ounce of progress you made. It carries so much shame that many people would rather lie, minimize, or pretend it never happened than say it out loud. So, I'm going to say it out loud. At the time I wrote this book, I relapsed. Not in theory. Not in some distant chapter of my past. I relapsed in the middle of writing the story. I had already felt what long-term sobriety could do to my body, my mind, and my ability to think clearly. I knew the difference. I knew what better felt like. And then one day I walked into a gas station and walked out with a pint of whiskey, like it was an autonomous response. I didn't even enjoy it. I just felt defeated. And that defeat was enough to restart the cycle. That's the scary part. Sometimes relapse does not appear from some issue. It shows up as quiet permission. It shows up as one decision that looks small and feels manageable until it isn't. Because here's the truth for me. I don't have a dimmer switch with alcohol. I don't have a cut back a little setting that stays there. I'm not the guy who can just have one or two and be fine. I have an on and off switch. And once I flip it on, my life starts rearranging itself around feeding the habit again. I can't do Midwest sober either. That's where you drink on the weekends and call it control. It's like the Great Value version of California sober. It sounds responsible, until you realize it's still the same trap, just on a planned schedule. And the funniest part is how convincing it sounds when you say it out loud. I'm not drinking during the week. Yeah, neither am I. I'm just spending Monday through Thursday negotiating with Friday like it's some sort of peace treaty. Midwest sober is not sober. It's just sobriety set up with a calendar invite. This episode is not about demonizing relapse or pretending it didn't happen. It's about telling the truth. It's about what it feels like to slip after you've already felt real freedom. It's about how fast your body remembers and craves the poison. It's about how quickly your mind starts bargaining with the ego again. It's about what it took to pull myself back out of the darkness before I was consumed by it. Relapse does not mean you are worthless. It does not mean you are hopeless. But it does mean something matters enough to numb feelings. That's what we are going to talk about today. I want to start with the part that surprises people the most, because it still surprises me. When I relapsed, it was not some dramatic explosion where my life suddenly caught fire, and I panicked. It started with a decision. It started with a moment of calm that should have been harmless. I was tired, worn down, and carrying more pressure than I admitted to anyone. I walked into a gas station and bought a pint, like I was buying a bag of chips. No big moment, no announcement, just a choice. And that choice mattered, because the first drink is never just the first drink. The first drink is a signal. It tells my brain, we are allowed to do this again. Once my brain gets that permission, it doesn't negotiate. It collects. It does not ask for moderation. It asks for more. That's why I always say, I don't have a dimmer switch. If alcohol gets turned back on, it does not stay quiet in the background. It wants the whole room. When I was sober, I felt incredible. I didn't even realize how much alcohol had been slowing me down until I had time away from it. My body felt lighter. My mind felt clearer. My emotions weren't perfect, but at least they weren't muted. I wasn't constantly trying to manage a hangover, a buzz, a crash, and the mental fog that comes after. I had proof that sobriety worked for me. Then life got heavy again. Work started breaking me down in a way I didn't expect. The stress, the pressure, the constant weight of feeling unsupported, it all started taking pieces out of me. And at the same time, my wife's health was scaring the hell out of me. That kind of fear is different. It sits in your chest. It makes you feel powerless. It makes you feel like you are failing even when you're trying. Watching someone you love struggle and realizing you cannot fix it is its own kind of torture. But here's the part people don't always expect. I left a stressful job because it was grinding me down. I thought leaving would feel like relief. I thought I'd breathe again. But instead, a different kind of stress showed up. The kind that feels quieter, but hits harder. The stress of not working. The stress of not knowing what was next. The stress of wondering if I just made the dumbest decision of my life. Only having one income. When your life was created around two. When you're used to being busy. Your brain doesn't always handle stillness well. It doesn't always handle uncertainty well. And when you lose structure, your mind starts filling the space with fear, bills, identity, purpose, self-worth. That spiral that tells you you're falling behind, that you're failing, that you're about to lose everything. And for me, that kind of stress didn't just sit there. It hunted for an exit. So I did what I had done in the past. I reached for the easy escape. That pint turned into another. Then it turned into a routine. Then it turned into a 750 milliliter bottle a day. That's not casual drinking. That's shutting life off style of drinking. That's drinking like it's medicine, even though it's poison. At first, it was at night. Then it started creeping earlier and earlier. And once I started drinking in the morning, everything changed. Because morning drinking is not about relaxing. It's about avoiding reality. It's about not being able to face the day without something in your system. It was about erasing how I felt from the night before, chasing the hangover. What shocked me was how fast my body turned on me. When you drink every day for a long time, you forget what normal even feels like. Feeling like hell becomes your new baseline. When you've been sober for a while, and then you go back, you feel the difference immediately. It is brutal. It's like your body remembers what healing is supposed to feel like, and then suddenly it's thrown back into cleanup mode. Sleep gets wrecked. Mood swings get worse. Your energy drops. Your brain gets slower. Everything inside you feels sluggish, like your battery is at 10%. And then the shame shows up, because you're not just feeling sick. You're thinking, what the hell is wrong with me? I already proved I could do it. Here's the thing people forget. Most of us didn't become addicted overnight. It didn't go from 0 to a 750 milliliter bottle a day instantly. It built up. It metered up over time. One drink turned into a habit. Then the habit turned into a routine. Then the routine turned into something that felt like it owned you. And that matters, because getting back out works the same way. Metering down is still progress. It is not defeat. It is you unwinding something that took years to tighten around you. The only difference is that metering down has to be intentional. It has to have your full attention. You can't drift your way out of addiction. You have to fight your way out. Climbing out took more effort than sliding in. It always does. Falling is fast. Getting back up is work. I didn't have some heroic movie moment where I just snapped out of it and suddenly became strong again. It was ugly. It was slow. It was daily battles. It was me trying to delay the first drink of the day. It was fighting the morning urges. It was cutting back little by little until I could breathe again without it. And while I was trying to crawl back out, something else was happening in my life that mattered more than I can describe. My wife started changing what she was putting in her body. She started juicing, focusing on healing, taking control of her health one choice at a time. And within a few months, it was like watching someone come back to life. Her medication dropped. Her energy returned. Her ability to function normally came back. If someone saw her a few months earlier and then saw her after, They wouldn't believe it was the same person. That shift did something to me. It reminded me that the body can recover, that change is possible, that progress is real. It was a mirror in the most painful way. She was healing, and I was poisoning myself slowly again. I could not keep pretending those two things could coexist forever. One of the most important moments in that relapse did not come from a fight. It came from a sentence. My wife looked at me and softly said she was worried about my drinking. No yelling, no explosion, no argument, just calm honesty. And I listened. That was the difference. I listened. Because the truth is, anger would have made me defensive. Fear would have made me shut down. But her calm concern made me see myself through her eyes. It made me realize I was asking the person I love the most to watch me slowly kill myself. And I could not live with that. Taking a quick pause here. If this episode is resonating, I would love for you to follow the No One Is Normal podcast on whatever platform you listen on. Every follow helps this show reach people who might need these stories. Now let's jump back in. Relapse has happened more than once in my journey. I'm not proud of it, but I am proud of the fact that each time I've slipped, I've gotten back up faster for longer periods. Each relapse got shorter. Each recovery got stronger. And I had to learn something that changed everything for me. Relapse does not erase the work I've done. It does not delete the progress. It exposes what still hurts and what I still need to work on. It exposes what I'm still avoiding. It exposes where I need stronger support, stronger tools, and more self-compassion. That's the real story here, not the fall. The fight to rise again. Relapse is one of the most misunderstood parts of recovery, and much of that stems from how people talk about it. People treat relapse like it's proof you never meant it, like it means you were lying about your progress, like it cancels everything. But for many people, relapse is information. It's a signal that something overwhelmed the system. Something hit harder than the coping tools available at the time. You are not a failure. That does not make relapse harmless. The risks are real. The danger is real. People die in relapse. People destroy relationships in relapse. People lose years of their lives in relapse. But it still matters to say something clearly. Relapse is often less about someone not caring and more about someone not being able to carry what they are carrying anymore. A lot of people think addiction is a willpower problem. They think that if someone just wanted it badly enough, they would stop. If that were true, shame would work. Guilt would work. Getting screamed at would work. But it doesn't. Addiction has a way of training the brain to treat the substance like relief, even when the substance is actually destroying the person. When stress, grief, fear, or life starts collapsing, the brain reaches for what it remembers as fast relief. And that's the trap. Alcohol does not solve the pain. It delays it. It numbs it for a minute. Then it brings it back even worse, along with shame, sickness, and the feeling of being trapped in that vicious cycle again. Another truth people miss is that relapse rarely starts with the bottle. It starts earlier. It starts in the silence, in isolation, when the pressure gets too high, and when you feel like you have to be strong, or be okay, or handle it alone, then you refuse to confront it. When that happens, relapse becomes less about drinking and more about escaping the internal negative voices. Loved ones matter here too, and not always in the way people expect. Sometimes people explode because they're scared, and sometimes they say nothing. But the most powerful thing is often the calm truth. Real concern, real conversations, not attacks, not humiliation, just love that refuses to pretend everything is fine. Stigma makes it worse. Stigma teaches people to hide, to lie, to isolate when they most need support. And isolation is where addiction thrives. That voice inside gets louder. The one that says, "You're a failure, you're weak, you already ruined it, so why try anymore?" That voice is a damned liar. Progress is not erased because you stumbled. The sober days, the growth, and the healing still happened. Relapse does not prove you are hopeless. It proves you are human, and you are dealing with something heavy enough that your old survival patterns woke back up. The goal is not to pretend relapse is fine. The goal is to stop treating it like the end of the story. The story depends on what you do next. When I think about relapsing, I don't think about the bottle first. I think about the moment my mind started getting quiet in the wrong way, because that's where it always begins for me. It begins when I stop talking, stop admitting I'm scared, and when I start carrying everything alone, as if that is somehow a strength. I can see how it happened. Work was crushing me in ways I did not want to admit. My wife's health was terrifying me, because I felt helpless and useless, watching someone I love suffer. I was exhausted from trying to be steady, while everything around me felt like it was slipping. Then I made that one small decision that wasn't small at all. I walked into a gas station and bought a pint, like it was no big deal. And once I did that, I could feel the switch flip, because I don't have a dimmer with alcohol. I don't have a setting where I can just do a little and stay there. Once I turn it on, it starts pulling me back into the same gravity. I hate that about myself. I have judged myself for it. I have tried to pretend I could be different, but the truth is the truth. The hard part is that I knew better. I had proof that sobriety felt better. I had proof that my life was clearer and lighter without it. And still I slipped. And even with that shame, I also have to face another truth. I didn't stay there. I fought my way back out. And that fight counted. It counted every time I delayed that first drink. It counted every time I cut back. It counted every time I chose to try again, even when it would have been easier to sink. I think that is what relapse forced me to learn. I am not defined by the days I slipped. I am defined by the fact that I kept getting back up. I kept choosing life even when my brain wanted numbness. I am learning to forgive myself enough to keep going, because I refuse to let one bad chapter turn into the ending of the whole book. If you're listening to this, and relapse is part of your story, I want you to hear something clearly. You are not alone, and you are not the only person who has made progress and then fallen back into something they swore they were done with. Maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's drugs, maybe it's food, porn, gambling, self-harm, or even going back to a relationship you knew was bad for you. The details change, but the pattern underneath is familiar. You tried to change. You made progress. Then life hit you hard enough that your old survival method showed back up, and you let it in. Before shame gets to write the ending, pause and ask yourself a different question. What does relapse mean when you look beyond guilt? Does it mean you're hopeless? Or does it mean you're carrying something you never learned how to carry in a healthy way? And for some of you, this is the most important part. If you are like me, you might not have a dimmer switch either. You might not be able to do moderation. You might not be able to do just weekends. You might not be able to do Midwest sober, where you drink Friday and Saturday and call it control. If that's you, you're not crazy. You're not weak. You just have to be honest about how your switch works. Some people can play with it. Some of us can't. And pretending we can is how we end up back in the same hole. Think about what tends to pull you back. Is it stress, anger, shame, grief, or loneliness? Is it watching someone you love suffer and feeling powerless? Most relapse triggers are not random. They are emotional weight. They are pressure that went unspoken. They are fears you tried to face alone. Now ask yourself something else. What did you learn the last time you fell and got back up? Not what did you do wrong, but what did you learn? Did you learn you need support sooner? You can't isolate and survive. You need rest, not just discipline. That you push people away when you're ashamed and that it's time to fix that pattern. Progress is easy to measure the wrong way. We track streaks, days sober, weeks clean. We treat it like one broken day means we're back at zero. But you are not the same person you were when you first started trying to change. You have more information now. You have more proof now. You have more resilience now. What if progress is not perfection? What if progress is returning to sensation faster after a slip? What if progress is asking for help before you disappear? Ask yourself what you need more of right now. Support, rest, honesty, forgiveness. Maybe all four. Support might mean telling someone the truth today. Rest might mean admitting you are burned out. Honesty might mean naming the relapse out loud instead of hiding it. Forgiveness might mean letting yourself be human and choosing to try again anyway. Relapse is not the end. It is a moment. What you do after it is what really matters. Relapse is not the shiny part of anyone's story. It's not inspirational in the moment. It's messy, humiliating, and painful. It's quiet decisions that stack up until you're standing in a place you swore you would never stand again. From the outside, people see behavior. They see bottles. They see distance. But from the inside, relapse feels like a war between the part of you that wants to be numbed and the part of you that still believes you deserve more. I wish I could tell you that once you get sober, once you start healing, once you decide to change, the line only goes up from there. For some people it does. For a lot of us it doesn't. And that does not mean we are broken and in need of repair. It means we are humans trying to rebuild a life while still carrying pain we never learned how to address. What matters most is not that you never stumble. What matters is that you keep getting back up, that you learn from each slip instead of using it as a reason to hate yourself, that you listen when someone who loves you says they're worried, that you let it land, that you tell the truth sooner next time, that you stop suffering in silence. Relapse does not erase your progress. It does not delete who you are becoming. It reveals where you still need support. It reveals where the load is not bearable. It reveals where you need better tools and better boundaries. And the fact that you're still here listening, still trying, still fighting, means your story is not over. If you're in the middle of it right now, you can choose something different today. You can ask for help. You can tell yourself the truth. You can pour it out. You can take one step back toward regaining your life. Healing is not about being flawless. It is about refusing to quit. Every day you choose recovery. Even after relapse, you are proving that you are still here, still fighting, and still worthy of a life that is way more than just surviving. That's under the surface. Not to judge the story, not to rewrite the past, but to understand the patterns that shape how we live. If something in this chapter stirred recognition for you, sit with it. Pay attention to what keeps showing up. Awareness is where change starts. Just a reminder, the stories and conversations in this podcast are for informational and personal reflection only. Nothing shared here should be taken as medical, legal, or professional advice. Always speak with a qualified professional about your own personal situation. Thank you for listening to No One Is Normal. If today's message resonated with you, you can find the book No One Is Normal on Amazon and Kindle, and explore more resources at www.bradhhill.com or www.nooneisnormal.co. Remember, you weren't meant to be normal, you were meant to be you.